after you get those fuel line connections disconnected, then you can move this tray out of your, like, you can push it back up, just back up into the screw here. Just hold it. It's easy to undo that screw again later when you have to put the gas tank back in, but that'll just get it out of your way while you're dismantling the straps. So now that your fuel lines are disconnected and the breather tube, have your 10mm socket and ratchet and your other tools handy in a box, and just start undoing this plastic shield. I'm trying to give you some good context. Yep. You know what? I want my extension for this. I could probably use a smaller extension. My arm is actually getting pretty worn out, but what I wish I had known is that I should have just started with the small 10mm on the normal ratchet, because that gave me a good enough angle for loosening these bolts. They were pretty tight. Okay, so I finally got this down. Took about 5 or 6 minutes. The bolts may have been cross-threaded. So you'll actually want to take your 14 millimeter and undo these two 14 millimeters and then do these two 10 millimeters, because this thing flaps down and gets in your way, and you don't want to waste time undoing that just because of this. Okay, so on this side, it was that long. On this side, I had one this long. But this short one, oh, you know what? I think I had previously put a long one in that made that pop top off, and I switched it out with the shorter one. Okay, I'm gonna put these bolts in our little basket. But no, actually, I'm gonna put the bolts back in the holes that they came from so I don't mix up where they go, because the length matters. Okay, there you go. The bolts are back in their respective holes. There. They're just gonna stay like that so they don't, so we don't lose track of where they belong. Okay, we got our little pillow. Get comfortable. Because if a bolt is cross-threaded or something, you don't want to get frustrated with it and make things worse. Okay, now reinstalling this bar and the plastic piece. You need to put the bar on first and then tighten those bolts. There might be a torque involved. And then you'll get the two 10 millimeters here. And if you had taken the whole thing off, then there was the other 10 millimeter up there. And you just push that in. I already went ahead and put the bar in. It's pretty straightforward. The short bolt goes there. The long one goes there. And then it's just the two 10 millimeters that go through the bar. It doesn't hurt to just go ahead and spray things with WD-40. In the case of these bolts anyway, you don't want to do that with your brakes. But these things get clogged up and rusty, and anything you can do to prevent rust from killing your car, you should do it. Okay, so here we go. We want to loosen this. We want to loosen these because when we went to put the bolt in on the other side, it wasn't quite lined up correctly. So they should all be put in loosely to make sure they can all be aligned correctly, and then you tighten. And you can pretend that this is still attached to the ratchet and do that. Even with the ratchet attached, I can't do it with just one hand. One hand's holding the camera, but I would need that hand to hold the ratchet up. I just want to loosen that up and then go into our 12 millimeter for this one and loosen that up. And then hopefully when we go back to the other side, we can get the bolt aligned. Another thing I want to show you before we go over there is that this is how the bolt looks after using Evapo-Rust. This is how bad it was before. And I should go through and soak that in Evapo-Rust. But I didn't want to lose track of the bolts. So, it also looks like there was thread lock used on this bolt, so it's probably a good idea to do that again. Be careful not to cross thread. You just want to put this bolt in here loosely. This is the short bolt. This was giving me some trouble going in, and I really didn't want to cross thread it. It just felt like there was some gunk in there, so I sprayed it with some WD-40 and that did the trick. Okay, so these are all pretty loose in here. See? Okay, so we should be able to move the bar to make sure the other side gets in great. Okay, so here we have the long one and the short one, just to show you. I haven't measured them, but we want the short one on the inside because there's that cap. You see? And you can see how I broke it because I accidentally put the long bolt in there and I just kept tightening and tightening and broke it. So there's the two 10mm, and you want the long one to go up in there and the short one up in here, through here. Let's start with the short one. Just hold that in place. Get the long one, and I can't really reach it with just my fingers. I may have made a mistake. Okay, so you see the long and the short one. They're both 14mm. The short one goes on the inside, because you can see that cap. I broke it by using a long one. And, okay, so we're gonna put a short one here, and then the long one over there. And then it's two 10mm bolts holding this plastic and the bar up. Now, on the passenger side, you definitely need to put the bar in first, because that plastic piece will cover up that bolt. So we're gonna start by just tightening it by hand, so it's less of a pain with the bar, like moving that whole bar around. But yeah, so this is the short bolt, because as you can see, there's a limit to how tall it should go, how far it should go up. And if your neighbors are enjoying their music, you know, just enjoy it with them as best as you can. It's good news that the bolt, they all fit after just making sure everything was loose on one end, then do the other side, and then come back and tighten everything.